Go.
Good afternoon. I'm James Bessette, and welcome to Marketing in Motion. It's a new weekly show, a monthly show here that we hope you'll find very interesting as we look at how to remain relevant and effective in reaching your target audience in the new and ever-evolving world of marketing and advertising. I'd like to introduce my first guest and my future host, Tim Adkins. Tim Adkins is our digital media specialist here at Grande. And Tim, can you real briefly kind of tell me a little bit about you? What's your background in this?
Sure. Well, I first started in computers way back whenever I had a Commodore 64 in my house, which was a very, very long time ago.
That dates you.
Yeah, you could see that I'm not really exactly in my 20s. But from there, I started getting into computers and web pages. I built my first web page in the late 90s using only a web TV and an online text editor. I used an actual VCR plugged into the web TV in order to freeze frame for photos, and actually turned out a pretty good web page from just doing that. I started getting into communications. Went back to school kind of later, or not like late in life, but a little later. I got a degree in radio, television, and electronic media from Ohio University Southern. From there, I liked it so much that I stayed for a bachelor's in communications, and I have a communications bachelor's in organizational communications and communications and public advocacy as well. I then went to get my master's degree. I have a master's degree in interactive media from Quinnipiac University in Connecticut. And the interactive media degree consists of a lot of things from graphic design to social media to marketing, audio, video. So that's basically what I bring to the table to this particular job. I also just recently completed a social media certification, which is a graduate level certification from Northwestern University, and I am currently involved with my second specialization, which will be a graphic design specialization from Cal Arts. So I used to run my own freelance company. I still do that occasionally. You can find that at, it's called 19 Media and Design. You can find that on my webpage. I'll give a quick plug for it at 19media.net, which is spelled out, N-I-N-E-T-E-E-N media.net. And you can see some of my work there, and also a couple of the blog posts that I've done as well.
Excellent. Well, I know we're very glad you're here and with us. I know in the past year, our social media presence has jumped over 50%. Our engagement is up. We see a lot of alumni coming back and students, and a lot more engagement. And those are some of the things that obviously we check, and the performance has been tremendous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On that. When we think of marketing, advertising, branding, I mean it's almost now kind of all one ball. And when I look at it, I kind of divide it into three different areas. Your traditional media, television, print, billboard, radio, things of that sort. Your earned media, and basically any type of media that is almost done on your behalf. Press releases are a very good example of that.
Right.
And then the third one is the digital media, website and social media. Those two go really hand in hand now. And it's something that the university is very much involved in.
Right.
When you look at the resources available, whether it's human or financial, that's an area that we can really take advantage of with that. Our website now, those out there watching, is under construction, so it's going to be totally revamped. Because one of the things that I think we learned, Tim, is that people may hear about us or first discover us through different social media platforms.
Right.
But how they learn about us is our website. And it's with anything. When you have an interest in something, the first thing you do, it's either going to be Google it or you go into their website, and that's where you're going to get the product information and things of that sort. So let's talk about social media. There are literally thousands of different platforms and applications out there. I mean, it just makes sense. Why don't we be on all of them?
That's a good question, actually. A lot of people, whenever they go into social media at the very beginning, they always think, I have to be everywhere all the time. And honestly, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to be there, so they don't go anywhere. Social media can be extremely overwhelming to somebody that doesn't know anything about how do I get started. I hear this from a lot of business owners and organizations as well. I know I have to be on social media, but I can't be everywhere at once, and I don't even know where to get started. There are so many different platforms. I would suggest, from my personal opinion, based on what we've seen, and based on my my expertise, is to make sure that you're on the platform where your audience is. If your audience tends to be younger, Instagram is a good place. People say, well, you have to be on Snapchat. That's not necessarily true. You have to make sure that you know how those platforms work. Don't jump in without having some knowledge of it. But we can get to that at another time. My personal recommendation to all of these people, whenever they ask me, is to make sure you get on Facebook first. Facebook is still the #1 social media network in the world. If you look at the demographics from Facebook, they are even from 18-year-olds all the way up to 65. And looking at the sections of demographics, 18 to 29, 30 to 39, on and on. A lot of people will tell you, well, if you're trying to reach a younger audience, you don't want to go to Facebook because the kids aren't there anymore, and that's not true. They are there. They're not hanging out with their friends there like they used to. And that's something that they're using Snapchat and other applications for now.
So it's really understanding how the audience are using those individual platforms.
Exactly.
Are they using it to communicate with their peers? Are they using it to learn about something? Are they just interested in an entity or individual and they want to follow and get updates?
Right.
Whether it's to hear what maybe a political candidate says or what offer this restaurant has this week. So they're kind of picking and choosing, and then so we need to kind of know what our target audience is,
right,
and how it fits with those platforms, and how we can provide that same information for the reason they're going there. You mentioned Snapchat. It's Snapchat is probably right now one of the highest or most frequently accessed platforms during the day.
Right.
But like you said, what it is, it's a young audience, particularly fairly young audience that are communicating back and forth with one another. They're not looking to see what the political candidate said or when the shoes are on sale.
Right. They're not necessarily interested. A typical Snapchat user is not necessarily interested in buying anything from you. They're not interested in what a business can deliver to them. Now, don't get me wrong, businesses still use Snapchat, and a lot of businesses are very successful at it. But as someone who is in a small business who is just wanting to get into social media, I wouldn't suggest going into Snapchat because you don't want to alienate your audience. And if you have a young audience who are very savvy, young audiences are extremely savvy. If you're trying to cut into their game, so to speak, with your, hey, buy these shoes or whatever, they ain't going to hear that. And next thing you know, you're going to be shut out. Then you don't have that audience anymore. Not only do you not have the audience, you don't have access to that audience anymore. And so that's the kind of thing that you don't want to happen. So getting back to my original point, you got to learn to crawl before you walk. Kind of familiarize yourself with social media and with the markets that you're trying to attract, but make sure you do it the right way.
Right.
Don't just jump in with a message that's going to alienate anyone.
Well, and that goes then to, okay, so here at Ryle, we stay pretty heavy in a very limited number of platforms. Our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram. We'd like to be stronger in YouTube, and LinkedIn, is also a strong platform for us as well. In having those, if a company was to establish themselves in that, are they using the same message on each of these platforms? I mean, so what I say on Facebook, is that what I want to say on LinkedIn? Is it a cut and cut and paste and I'm done.
Yeah, a lot of businesses and organizations do that, and I think that's one of the first and major mistakes that people do whenever they first get into social media, or even some that have been in for a number of years. They'll use something like Buffer or Hootsuite, which in a way is good, because there are some messages that you can go out to your different types of platforms, and that will be okay. But you don't want to do that all the time, because they're different demographics and different methods as well. I mean, Facebook tends to be universal. It sometimes skews a little older, whereas Twitter is one of those things where you have to be on top of it all the time. If somebody retweets you or everything, and you're not there to understand what they're retweeting or to reply to them, there's a potential for some bad things going on there. Instagram, for example, well, if you don't have a whole lot of visual content that you want to display, and your pictures are just dark and not very, they don't look good, you don't want to be on Instagram, because if somebody pulls you up on Instagram and says this don't look good, then you don't look good. But getting back to what you were saying about everywhere with the same message, I tell people, don't do that. If you're going to do that very rarely, very rarely.
Because each platform has the different audience.
Exactly.
If you're on
demographic
they're following you for different reasons, and you have to understand that. And one of the things that that we do a lot here is we look at our analytics on our platforms to see which is working or not. And one of our primary goals here is it's all about engagement.
Exactly.
Okay? So putting a message out there is great, but what we want people to do is to engage. Either they're going to comment, they're going to like, they're going to share, they're going to retweet, and doing that, because talking to your audience is, it's a priority, but we want to reach their followers.
Right.
And if we're not putting out engaging material where they're not sharing and talking about us, then we're missing the mark.
Sure.
So what type of things or items, messages, posts have been successful for us in increasing that engagement?
Well, for us, I can tell you that we do not post. Very, very rarely, unless there's like a parking notice or something to that effect. Very rarely do we do any posts without pictures or video. Pictures and video are the two things that are really going to attract an audience. If they just see a wall of text, because you got to understand, on the news feed, it's all full of text from different people. What's really going to make people stop and take notice is a really nice photograph or a really good video. Now, getting back to pictures, you have to use pictures, and we use pictures almost 100% of the time if we're not using video. But your pictures can't just be pictures. They have to be nice looking pictures. Take a look at your picture, make sure that
do I need to have a professional photographer and a $3,000 camera?
Not necessarily. You can take really good shots with an iPhone. I don't think that, but what I'm saying is, no, you don't have to have a professional photographer, but make sure your photographs look good. If you're going to have a post about something and you have a photograph that is dark, you can't see anybody's facial features, that sort of thing.
Just some basic.
If the photograph just doesn't look good, and maybe consider taking another photograph or using something else.
And part of that, I think, what supports what you're saying is that we know that when we look at the analytics of our platforms, that primarily a high percentage, upwards of sometimes 80% of people who are accessing our platforms are doing it from a smartphone.
Right.
And so if you think about your own use when you're going through your own personal platforms, it's the thumb effect.
Right.
And you're going through those feeds each day, and you're scrolling through, and you don't know what you're looking for, but you'll know when you see it.
You know when you see it, exactly.
And what stops people is the image.
Right.
because no one can read that fast, and so people want to be infotained.
Exactly. And that's what's going to make people stop, like you said, and be infotained is a good image. Now, an image doesn't necessarily have to be a photograph. There are a lot of people that, if you have an event, for example, going on, and you want to have something that looks nice, that's just text on a background, a really good application for that is called Canva, canva.com, C-A-N-V-A. You don't need any experience for that, and it's absolutely free. All you have to do is go to canva.com. They've got templates. You can have your own background. You can design your own text. I have a blog about it on the website that I mentioned earlier. And as a professional and as somebody who has a graphic design experience, I still go to Canva. If I need something in a hurry that looks good, canva.com is perfect, and it's free, and they're constantly coming out with new templates. It works on mobile now as well. I would highly recommend it as well if you're running into a problem with a text issue.
Now, and some of the other things that I know it's very important to you, and you stress it a lot, is being authentic out there. And it's being relevant to the audience and to what your company is. How important is it to even be a subject matter expert? So if I'm in a restaurant business or something, I'm trying to promote tonight's menu. I mean, how can I come across as an expert in this dish or this cuisine or something?
Well, I think you can come across as an expert just like you could with any type of subject matter. Is if it's something that you're passionate about that makes you excited, just be real, and that's going to come through. Now, what I mean with be real is you don't have to write some kind of long-winded description of what the ingredients are, unless you want to, unless that's what you're about. If you want, but I think that the important thing is that passion comes through with any subject matter. If you run a restaurant and you're really passionate about a particular dish, tell me why you're passionate about it. Don't tell me, don't try to make up something about this is why you should come into my restaurant and blah 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 with whatever. Let that passion show through. Tell me in a conversational style. That's very important from what we do. It's a conversational style. Just tell me in just a couple of short sentences why you think I would love this dish. And just be, like he said, authentic. Authenticity is something that is very, very important in social media, and it's something that people will see through if you're not authentic.
Okay, so we talked about narrowing down your platforms, understanding who your audience is. We kind of talked about the different types of content out there, and we've gone through this very fast. I mean, I think we could spend easily a couple days talking about it, but given the high levels of that. So we've shared all this on what to do and how to do it. If I'm a business out there, why don't I just go out there and hire some 16-year-olds?
That's a question that we get a lot. My cousin's daughter's nephew's sister does the computer stuff. Yeah, I'm sure that they can do it. They know how that Facebook works. They're on it all the time. The reason that you don't want to do that is because, for a simple example, that just because you know how something works doesn't mean you're going to be an expert at it. Doesn't mean you know what it is, under the hood. I kind of compare it to just because you know how a word processor works, or I'm going to age myself, or a typewriter. Just because you know how to type doesn't mean that you're going to be a novelist. Doesn't mean you're going to be a best-selling writer. You know how the keyboard works. You know how social media works. But in order to have your business be successful at it, you have to be the writer. You have to be that novelist. You have to be that best-selling author that's going to know how to engage people with social media. Social media is just a tool. You have to know how to use those tools in order to be successful.
Right. And again, the other thing too is that, and we talk about it a lot, and we do a lot here, and that's analyzing our activity out there. All the platforms pretty much out there, and if they don't, there are services companies out there that for a fee, nominal fee, can provide analytics for you. And really looking at and analyzing which posts, which feeds have garnered the most engagement, and sticking with that, and always evolving to make sure that you're getting the most out of it. So the analytics is very important. You don't need to have, for most of them, you don't need to have a PhD to understand it, but if you're investing time and effort into it, you really need to look to see what's working. And if it's not, you change it, and if it is, you keep doing it. So again, we talked about social media, and if we think about social media, Tim, it's 2016, 10 years ago, 2006, there were a couple platforms out there.
Yeah.
Facebook was coming online. There were a couple, but no one was really using it. Smartphones really weren't relevant.
Right.
And
unless you were on MySpace.
Right. And yeah, that was the big one. And in 10 years' time, we went from platforms that were designed for social. For me to communicate with you, hey, we're having this event, let's meet for dinner at 10 o'clock, to now they've taken to the next step, and these platforms are really working, or companies and individuals are really using them for their marketing and awareness and branding out there.
Right.
And we've been doing that and utilizing these platforms free.
Exactly.
Except for
Yes.
our resources, but they've raised the game, particularly in the last few years now, to where that many of these platforms offer promotion, boosting of your posts or stories for a fee.
Right.
We've recently have been doing that and having some great success.
Some
with
excellent
it.
success with it.
I mean,
yeah.
so why have we been seeing the success with that?
Well, the reason I think is because, first of all, it's cost effective. It's a cost effective means of advertising, and we really don't have time for telling
Right.
us exactly why that. But I think the reason is because whenever people are in a social mood, whenever you go on a social network, your mindset is that I'm going to have a conversation. I'm going to find out about what my friends care about. I'm going to find out about some things that I care about, and I'm willing to engage. When you open up your Facebook feed, a lot of times you're already in that mode to engage. So whenever they come across something that has the University of Rio Grande on it, if they have any connection to Rio Grande, and we've been using our social media, like you said, to kind of get that engagement out. Now that the engagement is there, and we've gotten a lot of engagement, people are interested in what we're doing. So if you're interested in what you're doing and the University of Rio Grande pops up, people want to know. Right. And it's a development from the engagement process all the way up to where now our ads are successful because we did that engagement already.
Well, there's that, and I'll share with the audience a recent campaign that we did. We really wanted to try out some things. It lasted a week, and we were able to set a daily budget, with a maximum budget that was under $200.
It was.
I mean, very cost effective. It reached, I think it was over 14,000 people. So 14,000 people at least saw the ad in their feed. But from that, we had, I forget the exact number, 600 clicks on it. So they clicked on it. There's 600 people that were interested in it. And from that, we had over 20 that actually filled out a call to action form.
Right.
So when you do all the numbers on that, it was basically less than a penny for someone to see our ad.
Right.
It was about 25 cents for someone to click on it and see more of us, and a few dollars to get a good qualified lead. Now, it's simple. They make it simple to do that, but there still has to be some thought into it.
Right. The tools are easy to use, but like we touched on earlier, just because you know how to use the tools doesn't mean that you'll be successful. And we could talk about that at a later date, of course, when we have more time.
Well, and we do. We're getting near the end here. I know we went over a lot. It was very high level. We didn't get an opportunity to go into a whole lot of detail. And in our future shows, we hope to do that and look at different segments. What, going back though at the, talking about the paid ads with that, we're utilizing some of the platforms we've had where we've done Facebook, we've done Instagram, we've done Twitter, and had success with that. There are other internet opportunities out there, and I think this is one of the things we want to say for another show is that you see it all the time. You go to a website and you're looking at some red sneakers, and you go away the next day, you're on the internet, and all of a sudden you start seeing these ads for red sneakers.
Right.
And you're thinking, my gosh, what a coincidence. I was just looking at that yesterday.
Yeah.
So how much of a coincidence is that?
It's not a coincidence at all.
Right.
It absolutely isn't.
And so there are absolutely great opportunities with internet advertising, whether it's Google AdWords, banner ads, retargeting, things of that sort, and that's what one of the episodes that we hope to have in the future of how to take advantage of that. Those may be a little more out of the average person's skill level. You may have to engage some outside help on that,
Right.
but there's still the opportunity for that. And it's where the industry is going. Because if we look at where traditional media was 10, 15 years ago, that was where the bulk of the advertising dollars were going. Nowadays, it's not. It's shifted through means like this. We also hope to, we talk about and we think that, print is dead. Radio
Right.
is dead. And I think that's a little premature.
I think it's, yes,
and
definitely.
there are opportunities for that.
Right.
So we hope in the future episodes we'll see guests that can also talk to that. Any final thoughts, Tim?
Well, just a couple. I know that we've just really scratched the surface just briefly. And later on in future episodes, we're going to be really getting into depth on what's going on. Everything is changing in marketing. Digital media, social media, everything is changing. And we're going to keep you up to date on what those changes are and how you can keep track of them and use them to your benefit.
And I would say that if you have thoughts or ideas of topics you would like to see, you can contact us here at Rio. Our emails are available on the website. We'll post those later in episodes as we get a little more intelligent on our programming here. But really enjoyed it. I hope you found it helpful. Again, I'm James Bessette. My co-host now, no longer a guest, Tim Adkins, and we look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thanks.